is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 386, a very special episode tonight. We are joined by two incredible adventurers who just got back from Patagonia. One lives in Brazil, the other one lives here in the United States. But they spent weeks in Patagonia attempting the fastest known time around La Vuelta al Hielo Continental, which is an amazing route across the third largest ice field. It's like a 50-mile circumnavigation of these incredible mountains. Kaytlyn Gerbin and Fernanda Maciel are joining us on the show tonight, and it is a very, very special show. So sit back, relax, everyone. Ginger Runner Live begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay! What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 386. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Tuesdays to spend a little bit of it with us. Hi.
Hi.
I got there. I realized it was a Tuesday.
I was waiting for Monday to roll off.
Yeah. We've been doing our daily live streams, and Mondays, I always get confused that Mondays are Mondays because we normally do Ginger Runner Live on Mondays, but we've changed that for 2022. We are doing them on Tuesdays, and it feels good. It feels good to have like a little rest busting on Monday, and then we do our live shows on Tuesday. We have a big special show tonight, so I don't want to waste any time talking to myself. We have two incredible guests on tonight's show. Fernanda Maciel, coming to us live from Brazil, and Kaytlyn Gerbin, who is coming to us from, I believe, Washington, quite close to us. So we're very, very excited about that. We'll introduce them here in just 1 second, of course. But before we do, it is not just myself. It is not just our guests. We are also joined by the wonderful Kim. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing well. Hi, everyone. Kim Tashima Newberry here, as always. If you're new, say hi in the chat room. I'll be in there for the hour. And if you have questions for our wonderful guests, you can ask them in there.
Also, quick note that I am testing some new graphics and sound and stuff like that. So for some reason there's any sort of technical issues during tonight's show, that is all my fault. I'll take 100% blame. Kind of testing some new stuff tonight. And you might also notice the set is continuing to evolve and grow and change. And I'm excited about that too. Before we introduce our guests, who, by the way, I did not mention what they did, but they did some incredible adventuring in Patagonia, setting the fastest known time on La Vuelta al Hielo Continental, which is this incredible 50-mile route across the third largest ice field in the world. It's a very precarious and dangerous route that requires a very precise weather window and all sorts of logistics involved. We're going to chat with both Kaytlyn and Fernanda about that tonight. In addition, we have some individuals that we'd like to thank at the top of the show. That is our GR crew. It is because of them that we're able to do this live show every single week, plus our daily live streams. So thank you, GR crew. Two individuals in particular at that top tier. Big thank you to them, Rick Bjarnason and Brian Sands. Both go above and beyond in helping us do this full time. So thank you, two gentlemen. We appreciate it very much. Without further ado, I think we just need to introduce our guests.
Yeah, let's do it.
Coming to us from Brazil and from the Pacific Northwest, we have Fernanda Maciel and Kaytlyn Gerbin.
Yay!
Hello, our wonderful friends. Hello. So first, I just want to make sure that our mics work. Fernanda, where are you coming to us from? I'm assuming Brazil. Are you coming to us from the mountains of Brazil or your home in Brazil? Where are you coming to us from?
Well, I live in Chamonix, France, but right now I'm in Belo Horizonte, is where I'm born, in Brazil. So my state is Minas Gerais. That means is mountains. We are 4 hours from Rio de Janeiro, and here is 6 million people in my city. So it's a big city, but luckily it's full of waterfalls and mountains. It's super millions, thousands of trails, so it's super good place to be training, and also this is my roots.
Amazing.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, and live audience, if you can just confirm that you heard Fernanda, that way we can make sure that that mic works and it all sounds good and stuff like that, because we obviously have changed a bunch of these graphics and stuff like that on tonight's show. And Kaytlyn Gerbin. Kaytlyn, where are you coming to us from? Woo. I'm so excited to have you both on the show because this is what sounds like and what looks like an incredible route. Fernanda, obviously you have a lot of history with this route, and I'm super curious if you can give us a little bit of background with your connection to this route, this location, and your history on La Vuelta al Hielo Continental.
Yeah, so a crazy year, me and my ex-boyfriend, you got our car and you drove like 3 days, 5,000 kilometers by car to the south of Argentina. So from Ushuaia, you came to El Chaltén. El Chaltén is the capital in Argentina of the hiking. So like it's lots of trekking, so you have many trails. So this traverse is the most difficult one. So I had these two Brazilian friends. They are kind of alpinists and with lots of experience in mountains. So they invited me. So let's go. And he said, okay, so let's try to do the Circo de los Altares Traverse. That is the technical name of this traverse. But we call in Argentina as Volta ao Hielo. And I said, oh, yes, okay. So I remember like renting that plastic boots to be like ice climbing like 12 years ago. So it was that style. And then, okay, let's do that. And then the second day, so usually this traverse you do in 6 to 8 days. So you were expecting to do in 7 days. But the second day was like snowing and raining, so it was super hard the first day too. And then we said, okay, you need to abort it, like you need to come back, you'll be super hard. So I didn't, I was in this step that you call Passo Marconi to reach the Hielo Continental, the biggest ice field. So then you decide to come back. So I was always with this in my mind, you know. So after I came to Argentina, I did the climb of Aconcagua, but I still I need to come back to try this traverse. But Kaytlyn, she came to me last year. She said, "Oh, Fernanda, I want to do she was like, I want to do a project with you. I want to do a project with you." And then I said, okay, let's try to train here in Chamonix, some glacier, and then let's see, maybe you can be ready to try to do the Volta ao Hielo. And then, so you got this in January this year, you decided to come. Wasn't the best time to do the ice field, because usually it's before summer that they do this. So we knew that the condition of the ice was like very bad, but was the chance that you had to do. So that's why you came early this year to try to have this big goal, the fast no time in this traverse.
It sounds and looks like a very big route. So the fact that you mentioned that this is early for this type of route across such a big ice field just adds to what I can imagine the challenge of such a route. We did see in the audience that Kaytlyn's mic wasn't working. Kaytlyn, it's not on your end, it's all on mine. Kaytlyn, can you mind telling us again where you are coming to us from? I'm going to try to fix it while you say, hey, give us a little bit of audio. Did anyone hear Kaytlyn? Give us some feedback. Let us know if you can hear her at all. But also, Fernanda, the background, I can tell you're in the midst of a storm where you are, because I'm seeing lightning, I'm hearing thunder.
Sorry.
It's incredible. I heard it earlier in the show, and I was like,
somebody in the chat was like, thunderstruck.
It's very dramatic.
I'm in a tropical country, you know, like it's crazy. We are in the summer, and like each day in the afternoon, evening is these giant storms, and
it's incredible. I'm going to work on Kaytlyn's mic while we still have you on, Fernanda. Kaytlyn, you just sit tight. I'll get it sorted. But Fernanda, I do want to sort of, again, establish this route. So tell us a little bit about the specifics, like the technical things, distance, vert, location, and everything like that.
So this is in Argentina, in the south. It's in Patagonia. So in Patagonia, Argentina, so you have El Chaltén. It's this village. It's kind of a Chamonix in Europe, but it's in Argentina, no? So you have the Fitzroy, Cerro Torre. So you have also many alpinists, good alpinists. They come to climb there. Rock climbers, they come to climb there, and also the runners and the mountaineers, they come to do the traverse. It's lots of traverse. So the Hielo Continental, it's well, for us is the most difficult one that you can find in this area. So this is why I was so excited to try this again. And I know that now, after 12 years, I got so much experience and so much fit, and endurance that I said, wow, now I don't want to be 7-8 days. Maybe I can go fast. But we were thinking maybe 28 hours because that it's a long. Of course, that 50 miles for us is like, it's short. It's true because you are doing like 100 miles race, but it's so technical. It's so slow terrain. It's no marks. It's like a huge river, traverse, Tirolina crossing traverse, and ice, giant crevasse. You jump it like 2,000 crevasse. So now my knees hurt because so much jumps. So it's crazy terrain. So that's why I thought like, well, maybe if you go super fast, you'll be one day, a little bit more than one day. So it's this is the place that we were going to be. And this giant ice field, the Hielo Continental, is the third largest in the world. We have one in Groenlandia, in the South Pole, and then this in Patagonia. So from this ice field came 49 glaciers. They come from this ice. So this is why it's so cool. So you start in the glacier Marconi, then you go to the ice, and then you go for another glacier, and then you have another glacier. So you jump like different crevasses from different glaciers. It's insane because it's so giant, the place. And in the same way, you have these big walls around. This is why I call Circo de los Altares, because it's an amphitheater with like all the big walls around. It's just iconic and epic in the place, unique. So it's super, everywhere that you see it's magic for us, because you like endurance, you like technical ways, and to be a partner, especially if my friend Kaytlyn, it was just perfect.
I mean, it sounds beyond anything that I've experienced.
Yeah, Nicole in the chat room says that ice field sounds incredible. It just sounds.
I mean, it sounds so. I can't even imagine the scale. As the third largest ice field, the danger, the crevasses, everything that you have to take into account when traversing this type of terrain so quickly. I'm going to again test Kaytlyn's mic, because I don't want Kaytlyn to just sit there enjoying the stories, but
we'll just keep asking her where she's from.
Well, it's okay. Where are you from? Give me 1 second. I'm going to try one additional alternative here, Kaytlyn.
Yeah, and just really quick, Heather Reed in the chat says, love the way Fernanda's eyes light up talking about this, and I think that's very cool. You can literally see the passion in your eyes as you're describing the location.
Kaytlyn, let's try it again. I'm just going to turn all the mics on here and see if we can't get your audio to work. This is totally my fault. Kaytlyn, go ahead and give us another shot.
Maybe we need to get a thunderstorm in behind Kaytlyn. Maybe that will help with the.
Yeah, Kaytlyn, can you activate the thunderstorm back here? That would be great. I'm gonna try. I don't know if that actually. It's not on your end. It's 100% on my end. For some reason, my software is like, Fernanda's voice is amazing. We're keeping Fernanda's audio coming through, and then Kaytlyn's audio, they're like, I don't know about this, Kaytlyn. She seems a little off. Let's try to fix it.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming through.
All right. Stand by, everybody. I'm going to do a couple other things here. In the meantime, I'm actually going to ask Fernanda about the gear, because I think gear has to be a huge part of this adventure. You're in Patagonia. You're obviously, specifically Kaytlyn, have to travel a long way. So how much gear do you have to bring for this type of thing? What do you have to prepare? So Fernanda, I'll have you answer that, and I'm going to continue to try to tech solve in the background.
Well, you brought everything, eh? Because it's yeah, you were quite heavy. Helmet and rope, and we decided to bring the crampons because you didn't know if you find like blue ice or black ice, or like also like the crevasse. If it's not ice, but the crevasse there was kind of little mountains, so also you cannot sleep when you are jumping. So decide to get the crampons, and you had these special shoes. Is a new shoes that the North Face developed. Is the Vective shoes with carbon also, but it's inside like kind of a gaiter. The name is Flight Guard Vective. Is super incredible. So all the people that were like close to us and seeing us in the trails, they were like, wow, because it's any rock can get inside, any snow can get inside. The insulation is good, but keep your feet super warm, like
Right.
not so warm. And then also the jacket and some well, usually what you have, and buffs, and so, and the 2 gloves and 2 socks because you need to cross the river and you get wet again. So yeah, so you had. It's just for security. You decide to bring everything. So trekking pole and one piolet, ice stacks, and yeah, so was basically that. So you had 2 Tirolina crossings, so you had the material also for the Tirolina and also for the rescue in the glaciers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like it's a lot of climbing here. It's all sorts of crampons, ice axes, and you're having traverse with most of this. Do you know how much weight you were having to carry individually?
No, do you know, Kaytlyn?
No, I don't. And actually, maybe you can see if people can hear me if I'm talking.
Or getting requests for like interpretive dancing.
I mean, I know Kaytlyn, and I know Kaytlyn would do anything like to let us know what she's trying to say. But I'm
not. It doesn't
really
translate well for podcasts.
I do want to give Kaytlyn a chance to talk. Let's just see if anyone watching live. Yay, audio.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Oh, good.
We got it. I knew it would be my fault.
I just want to make sure we have both still.
Yeah. So Fernanda, can you just give us a test 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
And Kaytlyn, can you give us a test 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
I think we should be totally good.
I was waiting for Kaytlyn just to like mouth the words 1, 2, 3. Like, I was like, oh, now we can't hear you.
Okay, so Kaytlyn, tell us
welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. We appreciate you joining us. But I am super curious about the gear side of this thing and like how much you're having to carry, the logistics involved in a 50-mile traverse across dangerous terrain.
Yeah, so I'll just add too that we, for a number of reasons, decided to do this route supported, and so we had 2 guys, a little bit of like extra safety gear for us. This one thing that Fernanda was describing with going on the ice field, it's super remote. Really, like, you're just hours day. I mean, in most people's travel times, you're literally days away from any help. And because of the crazy weather in Patagonia, it's really well known for wind. And we're talking wind that like, yeah, I mean, I've been in wind before, but this is wind where like you pick one foot up, and when your one foot is up and one's on the ground, you get blown sideways. Like the wind can just be so crazy. And so the potential for rescue is there's really no option for rescue if something happens while you're out on the ice field. And so that factors into our decision about how much gear to bring. I think, we're so used to going light and fast and pushing paces and pushing terrain, but ultimately, you can have a great day in the mountains and not need to use any of your safety gear. That's great, but that doesn't mean that, we're comfortable going out into that terrain without bringing that safety gear with us. Right. So we had, first aid kit, headlamps, extra batteries, puffy jackets, all of the mountaineering equipment, plus the glacier equipment, plus the rope and everything. So, it gets to be a lot of weight to run with, especially for 50 miles.
Yeah, I mean, as ultra runners, we sort of expect to carry a certain amount of gear, and especially on solo missions, we expect to carry a certain amount plus. For something like this, where you talked about the safety right there and just being out of reach of communications and stuff like that. I do want to touch on that because this route, I remember you mentioning it on social. Is there no communications available for even in an emergency situation? Like, is it that remote that, is satellite inaccessible? Is GPS inaccessible? Is it that remote?
Well, you had you had that. I had one kind, and Kaytlyn, she had another one, and also the guy that came to film us, they had another one. So that was good. But the problem that if you press your SOS, like the emergency, there is one helicopter that is far away, and so the helicopter, you cannot count with the helicopter. So the people that can come to rescue, they come walking. So that means that can take like 3-4 days because they are not so fast, and with more the equipment, and plus with the condition of Patagonia, they don't come. So I lost now before our project, a few days before, I lost Cora, that is a rock climber that was climbing with me in Chamonix. Also, almost Tommy that was with us, inspiring us to do this project. I lost 3 years ago. Mr. Bean is a very good friend here from Brazil. He died in Fitzroy, another friend. And so this is because they get in trouble and then they call the rescue, but the rescue cannot come.
That adds that. I mean, that it adds that extra element of experience that's needed to tackle a route like this. I want to talk a bit about more about your connection, the two of you, because I think this route requires a certain level of skill. To do it as fast as you both did it in 13 hours plus requires a certain level of speed to even consider moving that quickly through this type of terrain. How did you find each other and trust one another? How long did you have to train together and work together in these types of conditions? Kaytlyn, if you want to start, now that we've got your audio working, I'd love to find out sort of how you got brought in and the relationship.
Yeah, maybe I'll give a quick little backstory, and then Fernanda can talk about like us working together once we got to Patagonia. But so I actually met Fernanda a few years ago at Trans Gran Canaria, a race I've done before, and we were roommates. That was kind of put up by the race organization. We were sharing a hotel, and at the time, I was working on my laptop. She was working on her laptop. I'm like, oh, what are you working on? She was in the process of planning some logistics for some big alpine expedition, some big mountain climb she was going to go try to set a record on. And I just thought, even at that moment, like, this girl is so cool. I would, maybe someday it'd be so cool to partner with her on a route. Fast forward a few years later, we're teammates on North Face. And then, I just have followed Fernanda's career for a long time, both in her racing, but also the speed records and high mountain attempts that she does. And, I've talked with you guys and your guests on the show before about I really am drawn to like these big mountaineering objectives and traverses and kind of mixing and blurring ultra running and endurance with alpine and technical routes. And Fernanda is one of those people that is really pushing those boundaries. And so, what a cool opportunity to get to partner with her on a route like this, where, like you said, we need the speed, but it's so much more than that. You need all the technical experience, the route finding, the navigation, the ability to be on a rope together. And, it's hard. If anyone's tried to even like run a race with a friend before, or even just a long run with a training partner, it's really hard to be the exact same pace as someone else for a couple hours. Put us out on an ice field, going up and scrambling up rock, being physically tied on a rope and having to move the same pace. I mean, like that's tough to do. And I think it was just a really cool chance to get to partner with Fernanda on that. And Fernanda, do you want to maybe say about like when we met in Chamonix to climb and then our time in Patagonia training together?
Yeah, so I have so much confidence in Kaytlyn because I know that she's a ultra runner, super strong. And last year she was recovering for her like a bone fracture, a stress fracture. I was recovering from a brain injury. And then we were like kind of the same pace, like having this same connection, like just come back but with so much confidence that you can like know about our skills and what you can do. And then you start like to train in Chamonix, and it was difficult for the training for me and for her. And I said, okay, come to do like one of the biggest 4,000 meters in Cham, around like in Italy. And you did this glacier and this summit, very cool. And I said, wow, I think I feel confidence on her also in this kind of terrain. And so I applied for this project. It's a project for the North Face, and I invited her because I was completely happy to have a woman, and special with her skills with me. And as she said, it's super hard to find the balance. So in Patagonia, we were like train together. Okay, now, like it was so cool, like work as a team, if you are stronger, you carry this, and if you are stronger, you carry this. And so it was super amazing, to have this compassion and this teamwork works so well for us, without ego, just going with the flow and happy and respect each other pace. And I think this is the why you did so incredible FKT.
I love it.
Yeah, it's again, it's inspiring purely from a project's perspective. The logistics of the course or the route itself, obviously very impressive, but the skills that are required to complete it in days, that's already a specific set of skills, let alone doing it in 13 hours. So the fact that you two were able to find each other and, like you said, get along and actually enjoy each other's company, because it's one thing to, like, we're both fast, but we don't like each other, and go do a route like this probably wouldn't work clearly the same.
But it's like very inspiring and very cool to see two clearly very strong, talented women from different parts of the world come together over, the common skills and common talent to accomplish something so mind blowing.
And also you got COVID together. So
maybe you can talk about timeline and what happened.
I was going to bring it up because the timeline.
You guys are truly bonded now.
Clearly.
We had so much connection. So I got the COVID, I think, 2 days before Kaytlyn. And of course, you were like together 24 hours. So like eating together, sleeping. So it's of course. And then, well, that was the tough part because I started to be sick and tired before her, so I couldn't join her in some trainings. I was like, wow, why am I tired? I couldn't follow her. And then suddenly she was super sick, and I started training, and she's still sick. So also with that, I had to respect her time to recover from her COVID, and she had to respect my time to be sick before, like when she was trained. So it's crazy, but you had also to face this COVID situation, also like to be worried, to be in the ice, because you could have some problems also to breathe, like you don't know in how the virus can attack you and also your performance.
Yeah, Kaytlyn, do you want to speak on that? Just timeline wise, you were obviously traveled to Patagonia for a number of weeks, and you take into account COVID and having to recover from that while you're there. Weather windows. Talk to us about the timeline and how this all played out and how it worked.
Yeah. So we both we met in Patagonia like right after the New Year, and for about, I don't remember the exact specifics, but let's say it was about 2 weeks. We were basically, any day that had decent weather, we were getting out to scout as much of the route that we could, just because, the style we're doing it in, going light and fast, and also knowing the risks that are there. We wanted to make sure we could preview as much as possible, so we were prepared. But the weather really wasn't great, which, I had never been to Patagonia before, and I learned very quickly in talking to Fernanda and others who have spent a lot of time there that it's not uncommon to be there for 2 weeks and not have a single day with good weather. And, for alpinists or, going out on the glacier, like we were doing, you don't just need a sunny day, you really need like perfect weather, with no wind, low risk of that weather changing because you're out going to be so remote, right? So we were just really waiting, like kind of waiting for good weather to come. We finally had a window that we were, watching a few days in advance, a few days, okay, every day checking the weather. I mean, like 5 times a day checking the weather, and it kept looking stable. So we were getting everything prepared, all logistics set. And it was, I think the day before that, the night before that, then we tested positive for COVID. So it was really like all this preparation and buildup. And then suddenly, like, we're just kind of waiting, can't really do anything. And then, got COVID, and that sucked. We were not, you of course try to like do everything you can to plan and prepare for something like that. But basically we just just like Fernanda, her first time 12 years ago here, like, all right, abort mission, packed everything up, left town, went to a nearby town that had a little bit more available for lodging. So we found like a small cabin. We isolated there. Fernanda and I spent a lot of time together, watching Netflix together, hung out, and really had to, at that point, make a decision of what we were going to do with the project. And everyone is affected differently by COVID, and everyone's kind of has their own timeline. So we really were just like, had to just respect whatever our own timeline was going to be. But we knew we had to extend the trip to be able to travel back within like the guidelines for travel. So for sure, we were going to be extending the trip at least by a few days. And then Fernanda and I had a number of chats where we're like, okay, maybe what's the latest we could extend? Like, let's see, let's work backwards. So we pushed out as far as we could, and then figured, okay, we'll just keep checking the weather. And if it looks like we're about to have 2 weeks of bad weather, then, once we're cleared to travel, then we can shift our flight back up and try to get home earlier. But we wanted, we were both really passionate about the route, had done a lot of the scouting, and we're there, and it takes quite a long time to travel there. And so we wanted to give ourselves a chance that if there was a weather window and we were feeling well enough to go for the route, that we wanted to at least give ourselves the chance to do that. And then just trust that if our bodies or health didn't feel ready for that, that we would be comfortable to just bail, which we were. So we decided to just stay as long as we could.
Such a cool part of this story, because that's Kaytlyn, obviously we're friends, we live in the same region, we get to see each other regularly, but it's amazing to know that you were down in Patagonia for weeks, longer than you
like, is Kaytlyn ever coming home?
I know, like, I think Kaytlyn's living in Patagonia now, and I think Fernanda's living in Patagonia too. Like, how cool is this? We just have friends in Patagonia now. This is amazing. For you, Kaytlyn, was this the first time that you'd experienced this type of adventure, this type of extreme, signing on to do a big mountain traverse that does require an extension of a trip and sort of that big undertaking?
Yeah. So I've done a number of like traverses and big mountain stuff, just but close to home. And I've traveled internationally for races before, but I've never done this where like we're going and traveling to a place, we're planning to spend a bunch of time there with one goal in mind. So that was part of the reason why I said yes to this project, because I really feel like I have a lot to learn with the logistics and managing, all of those other things. And Fernanda's done this type of project a lot before. So that was really cool to get to partner and kind of learn from her about how to navigate all of this stuff as it goes. And, one thing that I really respect in a partner, and Fernanda had this a lot, was just that, it's the kind of mentality that like the mountain isn't going anywhere, the route isn't going anywhere. You're never really in control, right? The mountains are in charge. We are there, and we do our best and can be prepared and try to be safe. But I think there's this understanding that whenever you're doing something big like this, there's a really big chance that it's just not going to happen, that the cards won't align, and that's okay. And I really felt comfortable, and as we're communicating about this and even deciding to extend our trip, we're doing all this with like a level of respect for the mountains and how serious the terrain is. And it's never like, oh, we're absolutely doing it no matter what, right? And I just think that that's such an important thing to have in a partner. And we had a number of times, both with weather windows and then with COVID and then, travel hiccups and all the other things that come along with this. There were a number of times where like this exact conversation came up and we're like, okay, we'll be ready. And if we can do it, we will. If we can't, then we'll come back another time. That's fine.
I mean, that's amazing. I can't wait to actually start talking about the Traverse itself. But of course, we are live with both Fernanda and Kaytlyn, fresh off their FKT in Patagonia. Kim, you pulled a bunch of questions from the live chat here. I figure I'll let you take it away for a couple of these.
Yeah, great questions coming in the chat room here. First, just a comment from Nicole for Fernanda. Nicole says, Fernanda, your story of coming back from your brain injury is so inspiring. You're a freaking boss. So there's a lot of respect in the chat room here for Fernanda as well. Question from Scout. Scout asks, love seeing folks go after these FKTs and adventure projects. How, if at all, do Fernanda and Kaytlyn incorporate these runs into training for future races? Does it add to the motivation?
Let's start with you, Fernanda, on that one.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah. Question was from Scout in the chat room, and Scout asked, love seeing folks go after these FKTs and adventure projects. How, if at all, do Fernanda and Kaytlyn incorporate these runs into training for future races? And does it add to the motivation?
I don't understand. Sorry. Sorry.
How do you use... Yeah, go ahead, Kaytlyn.
Yeah, just basically like how do we use these types of adventures as training, or is it like we train for this?
Well,
like
I think for me, it's harder than a race. Racing, it's you cannot die first, so you relax your mind. You just need to go for long distance. I think if I interpret race maybe because I race 12 years long distance ultra trails. So for me, the race is more the pace. Of course, you need to train the technical. Usually, it's not so high. So it's the ultra races. It's kind of fine. You need to work with pushing hard. Here, you cannot push so hard because it's so technical. You don't go to your limit of your heart rate because it's crazy technical and use so much more your brain, your skills, like to read the terrain. Imagine one place full of block of rocks that you cannot have marks. You need to cross giant rivers and jump 2,000 crevasses. So any kind of ultra is like that. But you really need to have all the experience of the ultras to go fast in this kind of terrain and to move really fast. If it's super wind and if it's crazy snowstorm. So I think you need a much more experience in my point of view. Okay, for this kind of adventure or FKTs, like this kind of traverse. Of course, when I apply this for my ultra, I feel so easy, the ultra, but in my mental part, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Physically can be harder somehow, but mentally is easy. You go and you can know that you can finish, But in this kind, it's 90% you cannot succeed because for the outdoor conditions, the environment conditions, and also for you.
It just sounds like it's such a boost to your confidence as a skilled mountain traverser. Like being able to do a route like this, one, requires the level of experience, but it also continues to push that experience. So when you do approach an ultra, if you go to UTMB or any of these other races, it doesn't seem quite as hard, despite the fact we're talking about 100+ mile distances.
It's also like when you go for ultra, also you don't have 100% of chance that you finish, because the ultras, they are super hard. But in this kind of terrain and the project is super tough, that you get already, like you start already knowing that you have 10%. So maybe also that is you embrace more the experience. It's so crazy experience. You can be here like 10 days talking about the stories. So maybe the story of one with MB cannot have so much stories as a big project as this one.
Yeah. Now the two of you obviously found a weather window. You found an opportunity to give this a shot, and I want to know about that day. I want to know about what it was like to actually move through the mountains at this speed, putting together the pieces of this puzzle. Kaytlyn, do you kind of want to walk us through the early stages before the ice field and how well you were moving and any challenges that you might have faced?
Yeah. So the first, I guess if we could kind of break it up in like 3 sections. So like the first big section would be the start from the bridge all the way to the ice, like to the glacier. And so we started at 4 a.m. And again, we started really early because we were trying to get on and off of the ice field as quickly as possible. And Fernanda kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but based on the conditions right now of the ice field, a lot of the snow has melted, so everything's really open. And so if you imagine like just a field that's covered with snow, you could just take the straightest line and just go. But when you have things that are open, you're constantly zigzagging, and it's going to add a lot more time and distance. And those conditions on the glacier were changing so much with every storm, and so because of that, we're like, okay, let's start as early as we can. So we basically backfilled to cross the river. There's really challenging river crossing that can get really high. So we wanted to cross the river like right before daylight when there's just a little bit of dawn, and then get to this one section where there's a Tierlinie or a Tyrolean traverse. Basically what this is imagine like a really deep canyon, like river gorge, and there's this glacial river flowing through. So it carves these really steep walls. So there's a cable that's been put up that goes in between both of these. And the only way to cross the river there is to put on your harness, climbing harness, and clip yourself to this cable, and then basically pull yourself across. It's like a zip line without like the woo zip line feel, because it's a little bit more intense. And so we ended up basically getting to the zip line. I think we did it without our headlamps on, but it was like right around like first light there. So, and then to get up to the glacier from there, it's no trail really. It's just all kind of slabs of rock, and it's all smooth, like glacially carved rock. And that section I had been on before scouting, but Fernanda didn't go that day. And so I had seen the route and had kind of figured out the best way to get up to it, because it can be really challenging route finding. And I had also taken a bunch of like GoPro and phone video footage for her to see. And so like the days before we got out there to actually go for the route, we were spending time at the computer, just looking at all the videos, looking at the route, being familiar with it. And so, I knew what to expect, but Fernanda had just seen it on a screen before. But that's really like, up until that point, we were just pushing each other, running as quickly as we could through that terrain. And then we get to there, and I think it really starts to get more technical. But Fernanda was just like flying up. I think we both, with experience, have gotten really good at reading terrain like this. And so it was fun to be able to get there and actually see that, where we're both, like I'm watching from behind to see which way to go, and she's just looking at it and being like, oh yeah, we go here. So everything went pretty smooth, and we actually got to the glacier faster, probably 30 minutes faster than we thought we would, based on our scouting. So everything went pretty smooth up to
amazing. And obviously there's a lot of technicality, I'm sure, involved in just approaching the glacier. Was the glacier the most technical section, Fernanda? And can you take us through what that was like, crossing the ice field?
Oh yes, so for a start, you have this steep part of the ice or the glacier. That was the part that was kind of scary, because usually when it's steep, you can, if you're slippery, you can come down, no? So, but that was fine. And then after, when you got on the flat for this glacier, Marconi Glacier, it start like kind of big crevasse. So it's like lots of zigzag. And then I start like, I don't like much to walk, let's push hard. And like, like have this feeling like, okay, it's hard, but maybe it's harder if you are like 12 or 15 hours doing that. So let's do that, but running, it's hard for the brain like to quickly think how to put your feet there, but at least you save the time in the cold weather. Otherwise, also this kind of ice can become melting like snow, and then it's more dangerous to fall in the crevasse. So then I told Kathleen, wow, push hard and run. Okay, it was harder, but so this is why you at the end you did the ice field super quickly, because you push the maximum that you can. You trained for the first time jumping so many crevasses in my life. So that was in the, I think we spent maybe 5-6 hours in the ice field. So you had time enough to train how to jump crevasses, because of so long time there, and we run everywhere, like all the place. And also you learn. So when you learn like kayak, like on the oceans, so you start to learn how to be close to the land, and and then in the ice was the first time that I was learning how to run in ice, because usually when you go for a glacier, you know kind of the glacier, but this ice field, you have 3 kinds or 4 kinds of glacier, and the different kinds of crevasse, and snow bridges, and you had everything. So you could practice in ice field all the kind of technique for ice and snow. So that was incredible. And so long that you had time to training and to be very good on that.
That just sets the stage for what I can only imagine is for professionals only, people that know what they're doing. But that ice field, 3rd largest ice field in the world. So when we're talking about size like that, I can't picture what the 3rd largest ice field is like as far as scale.
It's 300. This is 350 kilometers, this ice field. Okay, so you did just 30 kilometers. Okay, but this is 30 kilometers plus the rock part and plus the glaciers gave to us so much experience to spend these 6 hours there. So that was crazy for us, and we were like expecting to be 12 hours, because it was super hard to read the terrain, so you need to learn to read that, and to navigating, because how to get inside and how to go out is super difficult.
It's not so much just picking a line of sight, right? You're not just picking where the trail picks up on the other side. Plus, the fact that it took you 6 hours out of a 13-hour traverse is just a testament to the amount of time that was dedicated specifically to this terrain and the requirements within. I was already impressed. My mind is blown. Getting through that obviously sounded like a challenge, but it also sounds fun. Like it sounded like you both found a way to almost speak with it, with the line that you were picking, because you were able to move there so smoothly. What did it feel like to step off that ice field? What did it feel like to know that you were about to finish that section of this full traverse?
I'll add, like, I was really relieved to get through the glacier section. I mean, we're, animated and excited talking about it. And, Fernandas, just to give a little bit of a visual here, you probably get her energy through the camera. She's like, okay, yeah, let's go. When she says, let's go, she's gone, she's going. And I'm like, at that point, she was on the rope ahead of me. And I'm just like trying to keep up, just running. But, we're not just running. It's like running, step, jump, run, step, jump, run, jump, run, jump. And, it was fun and beautiful and amazing, and probably one of the coolest parts of train I've ever been on in my life. But also it's the most dangerous part. And so I was, had a pretty big sigh of relief when we got through the glacier. I think we took a little bit of a break off once we exited the glacier, and, high five. And we're like, okay, great. We made it through that. And we knew we still had another big section of pretty technical terrain, kind of weaving in around the glaciers and the moraine there. But at least in terms of like objective hazard and risk. It was, most of it was on the ice field. So we were really
and you were
happy to
both,
get
I'm
off
assuming
that.
you were both tied into each other.
Yeah, there's a question from Matt in the chat room asking the same question. Were you two right next to each other, or were you spread out and tied off to each other?
Yeah, how far or how long was your rope, essentially, stuff like that?
Our rope was 20 meters, so we were like 6 meters distance. But then after the Circo de los Altares, we did 12K or 13K together with the rope, and then you said like, okay, you can move, feeling secure now without the rope. And then, yes, so you were like close to each other, but jumping and feeling comfortable without the rope, because also the rope in that moment, the crevasse wasn't so up. You need to jump, but it was very safe in this case. And then you decided, okay, let's move, because also sometimes the rope was disturbing me and more Kaytlyn because she was behind. So to jump and also to have the trouble with the rope. So they said, okay, now you take out the rope. And then, yeah. And also after you took out the crampons, the grip of our shoes was quite good in that kind of snow and ice. So you could move faster also without the crampon in some part. But in the beginning, of course, you had this, the rope, especially for this snow bridge that you don't know. You feel safe, but you never know.
With the last section, Kaytlyn, as sort of you talked about it being 3 sections. With the last section, probably the knowledge at this point that you're obviously setting the FKT, but you might be setting it faster than you even expected or beyond your own time goals. Was it a difficult section because of fatigue? Did that play a role at all in the final section, or was it all adrenaline and excitement? And were you pushing one another in a way that you would push one another in a race where you're stepping in front of the other and pushing and really focusing on speed? How did that last section feel?
Yeah, so we actually, exactly what you said, we both ended up like pushing each other and kind of relying on each other in that moment. So coming off of the glacier, I hit a low. There's a really big climb after that point. And I think like from how much we were pushing and in the sun and managing the rope and jumping, it's really hard to stay on top of like your salt and eating and hydration and everything. And I think it kind of was catching up to me as I was going up that big climb, Paso del Viento. And so I just communicated with Fernanda. I'm like, hey, I need some encouragement here. I'm not doing so good. So she gave me, gave me some different snacks, gave me some encouragement. And then, we get to, and then we're just going. And then, so the terrain, again, this whole section was another big thing that we had previewed before. So we were familiar with the route and we kind of knew where to go. So that helped a lot. And so we knew kind of how to navigate through the more challenging parts. There's another traverse. So the same thing I was describing before, where you connect to a cable and go across. So there's one more of those. And then after that point, then you're on a trail. There's kind of a popular backpacking area there. And it's, I think, another probably 15K or so to the trailhead from there. And another really big climb that just goes on forever. And then at that point, we kind of both go through highs and lows, and then we were able to kind of pull each other through there. But yeah, like you mentioned, we were hours ahead of our projected time. We were really worried about finding that second Tyrolean traverse in the dark. And we thought that based on the range of time that the glacier could take us, like we said, we did it in about 5 hours, but we were prepared to spend 12 hours on the glacier, depending on the conditions. So we would, in our projections, we're like, we might be getting close to having a really tricky time navigating that section. And, as we're getting, like, I can see it in the distance. I look at my watch, I'm like, oh, it's only 2 p.m. Like we're like, we've got daylight for 10 more hours. Like, this is amazing. So yeah, that was, I think at that point we were definitely like really excited and riding the high, but we're still just exhausted from moving on terrain where I think it's almost more mental exhaustion, because like, unlike in a race or a long run where you can just kind of zone out and find a flow even once in a while, I don't think I ever like mentally turned my brain off for even like a second. And that just, I think, gets really exhausting. And Fernanda didn't really talk much about this, but with her brain injury, I mean, that's a whole other thing. I don't know if we have time for her to share a little bit about that, because that was a pretty big factor in our, how we were moving through the terrain and what kind of gear we were deciding to bring and how to push each other, and with our time projections, just because it was actually, we finished the route exactly a year after her brain injury. But it's a really, really big deal, I think, to come back from something like that and then, go out on this terrain where it's not really about even like the physical limitations. It's really like so much is mental. And when you're coming back from a brain injury, I think that's a whole other level of something to deal
I'd
with.
love to touch on that, Fernanda, if you have the time, because you take into account so many of the things that have to line up, that have to work for something like this to work as well as it did for you. In addition to the factors that you're both dealing with, Kaytlyn coming back from injury, and for you, the brain injury, I am super curious how you designed this to safely be able to do it, to do it with gear. How did that injury, how did your comeback from that injury sort of influence this trip, this excursion?
So I give you one example. Now I just drove my car, so I have so much pain. It's inside my brain. Is a pain that is a pressure inside my brain. My left ear is painful. My face. So I'm 80% recovery from the brain injury, but luckily running don't affect my brain. Wow. So my doctor encouraged me like to training and to do. Of course, I don't know if how the brain acts, how the limit, but it was amazing to see that how strong I am, how fit I am, and my brain also about running. And especially in this kind of terrain, I told Kaytlyn, she was prepared, and I told her, like, if you see that I'm start to be slow and stop to talk, give me so much sugar and so much salt, start to walk, and after my brain, you recover and you keep running again. Like my brain was perfect, but it still is crazy. Like for me to drive, I think it's because I still have some vision deficiency, and it's lots of cognitive stuff. So drive for me, it's still very hard, and it's scary. The brain, you don't know. So I put so much courage on that, and so much confidence on Kate that she could save myself if I was in trouble. But it's I love running, and I think it's so part of myself, that is easy for me.
Amazing. Kaytlyn, when Fernanda approaches you, and you know that she's also dealing with this brain injury, recovering from it, 80% recovered. Does it worry you that you're going to be out on the ice field and something might happen, or are you prepared? Are you having these conversations regularly? How does that affect you as the teammate?
Yeah. I mean, we were having these conversations, and back in August, when I was in Chamonix and we climbed together, for both of us coming back from our own respective injuries, that was the first time either of us had been on a glacier that year, which for us is pretty rare. Normally we're doing things right. So between August and then January, I think like Fernanda's recovery has just been exponential, and we're always kind of checking in about this. So that was good. But, I think when I mentioned before about kind of the remoteness of the route, and how to have some different backup safety measures in place if we needed them and stuff, like that's something we were talking about, and talking through, like what symptoms should I be watching for? How do I handle that if we have it? What's the backup plan? Do we have enough gear? Like if worst case scenario, we need to stop and just like wait out for a night. Like, do we have what we need to be able to survive and do that? I think whether it's your partner has a serious, brain injury in the past, or, you're just out with your friend and everything you expect to be fine, I think you always should be thinking about like, what are these different factors that could play into a really great day, and then also like maybe a scary situation. And just, I like to, it's not fun to think about what happens if things go wrong, but I think by doing that, we can have those conversations before we're in the moment. We can be really honest with each other when we're sitting around a table eating dinner and just talking together about that. And by doing that, then that gives me confidence that we can go out, and I trust that, we can communicate well while we're actually out in the moment and make sure we avoid any bad situations.
It's amazing. It's amazing what you two did.
Yeah.
The physical, the mental, the partnership, the camaraderie, the friendship. It's inspiring. We use that word a lot on the show, and I know we use it in the sport a lot, but it truly is inspiring to know where you both came from, the time that you spent dedicated to not only your craft, but also to this project in Patagonia, the weather window, everything lining up perfectly. 13 hours and 15 minutes, you were able to do this 50+ mile traverse that, the technical side of this alone puts this so far above so many of the routes that we're familiar with here in the States. And, FKTs, we talk about that quite often on this show, but this is just next level. This is a project beyond anything I could imagine with my own eyes and like being present. So I'm just floored. Kim has been so patient and pulled so many questions aside. We are going to wrap up the main show. I think we're getting pretty close to the
Yep.
duration of the main show. We are going to move into our after show for our GR crew members, and we'll ask some of these remaining questions of both Fernanda and Kaytlyn. But of course, before I go, or before we wrap up the show here, maybe Fernanda and Kaytlyn, if you could sum up just briefly something that you're taking away from this that you're very thankful for, and what might help inspire other athletes of all abilities to sort of take on a big project that puts you outside of your comfort zone. Kaytlyn, we'll start with you. A message that you might have pulled from this experience, from this adventure.
I think, I kind of hinted at this in my last answer, but just about both Fernanda and I were recovering from our own injuries very recently. And it's been a long time since I've had the chance to really explore that side of exploration and endurance that I get so much strength from. And a couple months ago, I didn't even know if it was possible to do this. So I guess, if anyone is dealing with an injury and having trouble being patient, just know that it all comes together in the end, and just be patient and trust yourself, and also find things that excite you. I was so excited to be training for this because for me, I got to spend time going to the climbing gym. I was pulling out my harness and my rope and doing crevasse rescue practice, and considering that an important part of my training. And for me, I get a lot of joy out of that, more so than just running around a track. And so that helped, kind of keep my mind looking forward as I was going through my injury recovery, and knowing that I've got a really fun project to look forward to.
Amazing. Fernanda, what about you? What did you pull out of this?
I think me and Kaytlyn, you felt fear before this project. And I think the fear is a powerful feeling and a powerful thoughts that come. But I think when you bring it to our mind so much faith and belief, I think that make all the sense. Each one, you have God, or you have a religion, or you believe in nature, or you believe so much in your own God, or on yourself. So practice this for me was the best. And this traverse gave us this opportunity to practice this. And so since the beginning, I told Kaytlyn, let's embrace this experience, whatever. It's so cool for us to have this experience, And if you don't complete this, you'll be beautiful also. So that was super cool.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh man, what an honor to talk to you both about this. Kaytlyn, obviously we've known each other for years, and you've been on the show a number of times, but Fernanda, to have you on the show the first time tonight, and to have it be around a project and a recovery from the brain injury, and it's just such an honor to have you on the show.
Yeah, what an honor. Thank you so much. I just want to read a comment from the chat room just to kind of wrap up here. Scout in the chat room says, the friendship, the care, the patience, the respect, and the drive that they both shared with each other to accomplish this FKT is just simply beyond incredible. And I cannot agree more.
Could not agree more. Fernanda, this is your first time on Ginger Runner Live, and we do have a tradition on the show. Kaytlyn has probably done this 10 times now, even though Kaytlyn's been on the show many, many times. We call it our Quickie Question Quiz. It is just a rapid-fire series of very, very easy questions. All you got to do is answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. When you are ready for the Quickie Question Quiz, just give us a thumbs up, and we'll dive right on in. It's a very short list. Are you ready? Are you ready, Fernanda?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your very first race?
The Ultra was the North Face Endurance Challenge Championship in California.
That's a good one. I miss it. I already miss it.
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
Favorite place to run currently?
Lapinha da Serra, where I have my house in Brazil.
Road or trails?
Wow, trails.
Bucket list race or a bucket list FKT?
That I'd like to do, or I did.
Yeah, that you'd like to do. Any big races or FKTs you'd like to do?
Western States and FKT. Maybe. I don't know.
That's okay. Western States. We'd heard
love
of
to
it.
see you run at Western
Yeah,
States.
we'd love to see you run at Western States.
Yeah.
What is your favorite running movie?
Running movie. Running movie. Forrest Gump. that inspired me so much. That was a long time ago. Sorry.
It's perfect. Perfect. I think that's 100%.
I think that might have been my favorite answer.
Favorite
to that
answer.
Question.
I'm actually really curious about this next question. Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show, like a TV show that you love to watch?
Well, no, because I stopped watching TV 15 years ago.
Forrest Gump also counts, though. We'll
We did watch some
Caitlyn's face
Netflix.
here. I'm like, oh, they watch something good on Netflix.
Yeah, no, you watch Netflix a lot, but it's not a TV show, though. But yeah, some movies is cool.
What is your favorite pre-race meal?
White rice.
And what is your favorite post-race meal?
Well, eggs fried.
I could get down with that. And finally, what are your favorite running shoes?
My favorite running shoes. Well, I think this flight guard, I was super happy. If this one is the last one that you had, yeah, it was super, super good. Yeah, for resistance and the grip and the cushioning, I like so much. So it's just because this was the last one, and I've been training so much with these shoes. So, yeah.
Perfect. Congratulations.
You passed.
You passed
Thank
the
you.
test. 100%. Our guests tonight, Fernanda Maciel and Kaytlyn Gerbin. Wonderful to have you both. Fernanda, can you let people know where they can find you on social media? Like where can they find you on Instagram, for example?
Yeah, it's Fernanda Maciel _official. You can have also my website, fernandamaciel.com. Yeah.
Perfect. And Kaytlyn, where can people find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Kaytlyn _G.
Perfect. Our guests tonight, Fernanda Maciel and Kaytlyn Gerbin. Absolute pleasure to have them both on to chat about their recent FKT in Patagonia. We are going to wrap up the show here and move right into our after show with both of our guests. We have a couple of questions that we'll ask them there. If you would like to join our after show, it's very easy to do. Head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. You can support this show. Every live stream that we do here, reviews, movies, all of it. But before we wrap up the show, we do like to recognize members of this community who go above and beyond, who do amazing things week after week. We call it our GR Crew Member of the Week. Kim, who is this week's GR Crew Members?
This week's GR Crew Member of the Week is actually a joint GR Crew Member of the Week. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Deb Hamberlin and Vivian Savares. And Deb ran Black Canyon 100K. Also a special shout out to Jared and Ian, also GR Crew members who also raced there. And Vivian showed up big time for everybody there and helped crew a bunch of folks.
Big shout out to everyone who ran the 100K and ran it this weekend. We appreciate you, crew. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to move right into the after show. Huge thank you to our guests, Fernanda and Kaytlyn. What a wonderful show. We're just honored to have them both. We'll see you in the after show if you are a GR crew member. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thanks all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ginger runner.